At my brother's wedding, I stood off to the side, smiling politely and trying to be happy for him. But as I approached to congratulate the newlyweds, his bride leaned toward a group of guests, smirked, and said loud enough for me to hear, "His sister? Just a sad little single mom with nothing going for her." The laughter that followed cut deeper than I expected. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just an outsider at the celebration. I was a target of their mockery. You know, sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most can betray you in the most public, soul-crushing ways. I'm Samantha Wilson, 32, and I never imagined that my own brother's wedding, a day meant for joy, would become the scene of my deepest humiliation. My mother chuckled, her voice cutting through the elegant ballroom like a knife. "She's like a clearance item, damaged and unwanted." The crowd, my family, erupted in laughter. But then my 8-year-old son, my sweet Noah, stood up, walked confidently to the stage, and said, "I know something about the bride." And that's when the truth came crashing down, shattering everything. We were inseparable, my brother Jeffrey and I, growing up. Best friends. But everything changed, absolutely everything, the moment he met Vanessa. That day, standing in that ridiculously lavish ballroom, watching my entire family fawn over her, I had no sick feeling in my gut, no warning that my world was about to crumble with just a few cruel words. What hurt the most wasn't just Vanessa's public mockery, no. It was my own mother, Diana, joining right in. Before I tell you how my innocent 8-year-old son exposed the bride's darkest secret right there at the reception, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like button if you've ever had to deal with toxic in-laws. Being a single mom to Noah was never part of my life plan, not even close, but it became, hand on heart, the most rewarding journey I never expected. 5 years ago, after finally establishing my interior design business, I found my rhythm, balancing work with raising my energetic, intuitive little boy. We live in our cozy 2-bedroom apartment, in a family-friendly neighborhood, complete with a small garden where Noah grows sunflowers taller than himself. Our life isn't perfect, far from it, but it's ours, and we built it from scratch after my ex-husband, Walter, walked out when I was 7 months pregnant, claiming he wasn't ready for fatherhood. Can you believe that? Jeffrey and I grew up in a middle-class suburb of Boston, just 2 years apart. As kids, we were practically glued at the hip. We built elaborate blanket forts in the living room that our mother, Diana, reluctantly allowed to stay up for days. We had secret languages that drove our father, Harold, absolutely crazy at the dinner table. Jeffrey was the one who taught me how to ride a bike when our busy parents couldn't find the time, running alongside me until I found my balance. When I broke my arm falling from the treehouse at 10, he carried me half a mile home on his back. That's who he was. But there was always this undercurrent in our family dynamics that became more pronounced as we grew older. Jeffrey was the golden child, always. The star student who brought home perfect report cards and athletic trophies. I was creative and did well enough in school, but I never quite matched his achievements in our parents' eyes. Diana and Harold never missed Jeffrey's football games or debate competitions. But my art shows. They were often attended by just Jeffrey, who would give me honest critiques and unwavering support. "You've got the real talent in the family, Sammy," he'd tell me, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. "They just don't get it yet." After college, Jeffrey went to law school and became a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm. I pursued design school and worked for several firms before branching out on my own. When Noah came along and Walter disappeared, Jeffrey was my rock. He helped me move into my first apartment as a single mom, assembled Noah's crib, and even took night shifts with the kicking newborn so I could get some sleep. "That's what siblings are for," he'd say, rocking Noah at 3 in the morning. "We're a team. Always have been." Then, about 18 months ago, Jeffrey brought Vanessa to Sunday dinner at our parents' house. She was stunning in that conventional way that turns heads, tall, blonde, with a dazzling smile and impeccable style. Her family owned a successful real estate development company, and she worked in their marketing department. My mother, Diana, was immediately charmed by Vanessa's stories about charity galas and vacations in the Maldives. But I noticed right away how Vanessa's smile changed when she addressed me versus my parents. With Diana and Harold, she was animated and engaging, complimenting Diana's home decor and asking Harold about his golf game. When I mentioned my design business, she nodded politely before turning the conversation back to Jeffrey's recent court victory. "Interior design must be such a fun little hobby," she commented while helping Diana clear the dishes. "It's nice you can do that while raising Noah." Jeffrey didn't seem to notice the subtle dismissal, but I caught the flash of judgment in her eyes when Noah accidentally spilled his juice, and I calmly cleaned it up instead of scolding him. "Your son seems a bit undisciplined," she whispered later when we were alone in the kitchen. "Children need firm boundaries, you know." Despite these glaring red flags, I tried to give Vanessa the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just nervous meeting Jeff's family. Maybe her privileged upbringing made it hard for her to relate to my single mom struggles. I invited her to lunch, just the two of us, hoping to build a connection, but she always had excuses: work meetings, hair appointments, charity committees. Noah, with his open heart, was genuinely excited about having a new aunt. He made Vanessa a hand-drawn card with, "Welcome to our family," written in his best second-grade handwriting. When he presented it to her at another family dinner, she took it with 2 fingers, as if it might be contaminated, and placed it aside without even opening it. I watched his little face fall, and something hardened in my heart against this woman who couldn't spare a moment of genuine kindness for an innocent child. "Why doesn't Aunt Vanessa like my drawings?" Noah asked me on the drive home. "Some grown-ups just don't understand how special children's art is," I told him, fighting back tears. "But I think your drawings belong in museums." I tried sharing my concerns with Jeffrey, but he was already deep under Vanessa's spell. "You're just not giving her a chance, Sam," he said, his voice uncharacteristically cold. "Vanessa comes from a different world. She's trying her best." But I wasn't sure she was trying at all. And as their relationship progressed, I watched my brother slowly transform from the supportive, kind man I'd known all my life into someone who prioritized Vanessa's feelings and opinions above all else, even his own family. Jeffrey proposed to Vanessa after only 6 months of dating. He announced it at our parents' anniversary dinner, presenting her with a diamond ring that must have cost 3 months of his salary. Diana shrieked with delight. Harold clapped Jeffrey on the back. And I forced a smile that felt like it might crack my face. Noah, bless his heart, asked innocently if this meant Vanessa would come to his school play next month. Her tight smile and vague, "We'll see," spoke volumes. The engagement party was held at the country club where Vanessa's family were long-standing members. I spent 2 weeks' worth of my grocery budget on a new dress, determined to fit in with the crowd of socialites and corporate lawyers. Noah wore his first little suit, his hair slicked down with water because we couldn't afford fancy styling products. Throughout the evening, I was introduced as Jeffrey's sister, without any mention of my name or profession. When a few guests learned I was an interior designer, they immediately asked for business cards, only to have Vanessa swoop in. "Samantha just does small residential projects," she clarified, her tone making it sound like I decorated doll houses rather than actual homes. "My friend Alessandra does the most amazing commercial spaces. You should really talk to her." The wedding planning began immediately with a target date just 6 months away. Vanessa hired a high-end wedding planner who looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language when I suggested some cost-saving alternatives for the flowers. "We're not on a budget," Vanessa stated flatly. "Jeffrey and I want the best of everything." "I noticed," she said. "Jeffrey and I. But the decisions all seemed to be hers." My brother, once so opinionated and strong-willed, now deferred to Vanessa on everything from the venue to the font on the invitations. Traditionally, in our family, siblings were always part of the wedding party. When I casually asked Jeffrey who his groomsmen would be, he looked uncomfortable. "About that, Sam, Vanessa thinks it would be better if you focused on helping with Noah during the wedding. She's having her sorority sisters as bridesmaids, and it would be uneven to have you stand up, too." I swallowed hard and nodded, pretending it didn't feel like a slap in the face. Later that night, I cried in my bathroom with the shower running so Noah wouldn't hear me. The bridal shower was another exercise in humiliation. Vanessa's mother rented a private room at an exclusive women's club, and the attendees were primarily her friends and family. Diana was seated at the head table while I was placed at a distant table with distant cousins I barely knew. During the gift opening, Vanessa gushed over every present until she reached mine, a handcrafted photo album I'd spent weeks making, with spaces for wedding photos and honeymoon memories. "Oh, how crafty," she said with a tight smile, quickly setting it aside for the next gift, an expensive crystal vase that elicited genuine excitement. As if the slight wasn't enough, while mingling later, Vanessa, accidentally, bumped into me, spilling red wine down the front of my cream-colored dress, the only nice outfit I had for these events. "Oh no, what a shame," she said, dabbing ineffectually at the spreading stain. "Red wine is impossible to get out. You should go home and change." Her eyes told a very different story than her concerned words. With each passing week, Jeffrey became more distant. Our weekly coffee meetups were cancelled more often than not. He stopped dropping by to play with Noah, who kept asking when Uncle Jeffrey was coming over. My parents noticed nothing amiss, fully absorbed in the excitement of their son marrying into such a good family. 2 weeks before the wedding, Noah spent hours making a special drawing for the couple, a picture of all of us together as a family. He carefully colored Jeffrey in his lawyer suit, Vanessa in a princess dress, himself with his favorite dinosaur t-shirt, and me holding hands with everyone. "This is so we remember we're all family now," he explained, his face serious. I helped him frame it in a simple wooden frame I painted gold to make it look more special. When we gave it to Vanessa at the rehearsal dinner, she said, "How sweet," before placing it under the table. Later, when she thought no one was watching, I saw her toss it into a decorative trash bin near the restaurant's entrance. My heart clenched. I retrieved it when she wasn't looking and kept it in my car, unsure whether to tell Noah the truth or let him believe his gift was hanging somewhere in their new condo. That night, I seriously considered not attending the wedding at all. But despite everything, I loved my brother. And I knew that my absence would create a family rift that might never heal. So I decided to go, to hold my head high, and to be there for Jeffrey. Even if he couldn't see how his fiancée was isolating him from people who truly loved him. "We'll just go for the ceremony and maybe a little of the reception," I told Noah as I tucked him in. "Uncle Jeffrey will be happy we came, and that's what matters. And I'll get to see if Vanessa likes my other drawing," Noah said sleepily, referring to another artwork he'd made specially to give the bride on the wedding day. I stroked his hair, marveling at his persistent optimism in the face of rejection. "You have the biggest heart of anyone I know," I whispered, hoping Vanessa wouldn't crush it again. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect June day that seemed to mock my inner turmoil. Noah burst into my room at 6 a.m., already excited about wearing his fancy clothes and riding in a limousine for the first time, a luxury I had splurged on since parking near the exclusive downtown venue would be a nightmare. "Do you think Aunt Vanessa will let me throw flower petals?" he asked as I helped him with his clip-on tie. "Jimmy got to throw petals at his aunt's wedding. The flower kids have already been chosen, sweetie," I explained gently. "But you get to be my special date, and that's even better." I wore a forest green dress I'd found on clearance, and altered myself to look more high-end. It was modest but flattering, chosen specifically to not draw attention away from the bride or bridesmaids. I curled my hair, applied makeup with a careful hand, and put on my one pair of good earrings, silver drops that had been a gift from Jeffrey on my 30th birthday. The ceremony was being held at St. Catherine's Cathedral, an imposing stone church with soaring ceilings and stained glass windows that had a 2-year waiting list for weddings. Vanessa's father had made a substantial donation to secure a last-minute booking. We arrived an hour early as specified on the invitation for family members. The church steps were already crowded with the wedding planner's assistants, florists making last-minute adjustments to elaborate floral arrangements, and photographers setting up equipment. Noah clutched his new drawing, carefully protected in a folder. "Where do we put the presents?" he asked the tuxedo usher. Gifts go to the reception venue," the man replied, barely glancing at us. "Family members?" I nodded. "Right side of the church, please." We made our way inside, where I was surprised to find most of the front pews already reserved with elegant "Family of the Bride" signs. A young woman with a clipboard approached us. "You must be Samantha." She checked her list. "You and your son are in row 12. Row 12? I repeated, confused. "But I'm the groom's sister." She gave me a sympathetic look that suggested this wasn't her decision. "Those are the seating assignments I was given. The front rows are for parents, grandparents, and—" She hesitated. "Special family members." Special family members. The distinction stung, but I simply nodded and led Noah to our assigned seats, far enough back that we'd barely be able to see the ceremony. As we settled in, Vanessa's extended family began to arrive, cousins, great-aunts, and even what appeared to be distant family friends, all being seated ahead of us. Diana and Harold arrived, escorted immediately to the front row. My mother, dressed in an expensive new outfit, didn't even look around for me. They were fully absorbed in their role as parents of the groom, accepting congratulations and looking so incredibly proud. The ceremony itself was objectively beautiful. The church glowed with candlelight. The music was performed by a string quartet. And when Jeffrey took his place at the altar, he looked happier than I'd seen him in months. I felt a pang of conflicted emotions, joy for his happiness, sadness at our growing distance, and lingering worry about the woman he was choosing. Vanessa made her entrance on her father's arm, her dress a custom-made confection of silk and lace that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. Even from our distant seats, I could see she was radiant, and the genuine love on my brother's face as he watched her approach brought tears to my eyes. Noah leaned against me during the vows, his small hand in mine, occasionally whispering questions about the proceedings. As the couple was pronounced husband and wife, he squeezed my fingers. "Now she's really our family, right, Mom?" "That's right," I whispered back, hoping that somehow being officially family might soften Vanessa's heart toward us. The receiving line after the ceremony dashed those hopes quickly. When we finally reached the newlyweds, Jeffrey gave me a quick, distracted hug before being pulled away by Vanessa's mother for photos. Vanessa herself offered a cool cheek for me to air kiss. "Congratulations," I said warmly, determined to start fresh. "The ceremony was beautiful." "Thanks for coming," she replied, her eyes already moving to the guests behind us. She didn't acknowledge Noah at all, even as he tried to hand her his drawing. "I made this for you," he said, his voice small but determined. "Put it with the other gifts, sweetie," she said without looking at it. "We have to take photos now." I guided a disappointed Noah away, tucking his drawing back into its folder. "We'll give it to her later, at a better time," I promised, though I wasn't sure such a time would ever come. The reception was held at the Belmont, the city's most exclusive hotel. The ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland theme, despite the June date, with crystal decorations, white flowers, and actual ice sculptures on every table. The cocktail hour was in full swing when we arrived, with servers circulating with champagne and elaborate hors d'oeuvres. I accepted a glass of champagne, needing the liquid courage to face the next few hours. Noah was immediately bored by the adult conversation and lack of other children. So, I found him a seat near a window where he could at least watch the boats on the river outside. As I tried to mingle, I couldn't help but notice how Vanessa's friends regarded me with curious, sometimes pitying, looks. Several times I caught snippets of conversation that stopped abruptly when I approached. Raising the boy all alone. Couldn't Jeffrey have found someone from our circle? Heard she lives in that developing area near the old factory. At one point, I escaped to the restroom for a moment of peace, only to hear Vanessa's voice from one of the stalls, speaking to who I presumed was her maid of honor. "Jeffrey's family is just so provincial, especially his sister. Did you see that off-the-rack dress? And that child of hers has clearly never been taught proper behavior." I slipped out before they emerged, my cheeks burning. When I returned to the main room, my mother intercepted me, her expression a mixture of criticism and concern. "Samantha, I wish you'd made more effort with your appearance today. Vanessa's friends are all so elegantly dressed. I'm wearing my best, Mom, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Diana sighed, patting my arm condescendingly. Well, try harder with Vanessa, please. She's family now, and Jeffrey really wants you two to get along. Maybe don't mention your situation so much. It makes people uncomfortable. My situation. My life as a single mother that I'd built from the ground up, that I was proud of despite its challenges. I'll do my best, I managed, though inside I was screaming that I'd been trying all along, only to be consistently rejected. As guests began moving into the dining area for dinner, I found Noah and straightened his little tie, grateful for his innocent presence that kept me anchored. Are you having fun, Mom? He asked, seeing straight through my fake smile. It's a very fancy party, I deflected. Let's go find our table. I should have been prepared for another slight, but somehow it still hurt when we discovered we were seated at the very back of the room, at a table with distant acquaintances and Jeffrey's colleagues from the office mailroom. From our position, we could barely see the head table where my brother, Vanessa, and both sets of parents sat beneath a canopy of twinkling lights and suspended flowers. Noah looked around at our tablemates, all adults, all strangers, and then back at me with questioning eyes. It's okay, I assured him. Though we both knew it wasn't. We won't stay too late. As the salads were served, I noticed Noah watching the head table intently, his young eyes missing nothing. I wondered what he was thinking, how he was processing this clear message that we were outsiders in what should have been our own family celebration. I squeezed his hand under the table, a silent promise that no matter what, he and I were a team. What I didn't realize was that my sensitive, observant little boy was absorbing far more than I imagined, and that before the night was over, his innocent perspective would change everything. Dinner progressed with the usual wedding reception rhythms, plates cleared, toasts given, glasses clinked. The father of the bride spoke at length about Vanessa's accomplishments, and how fortunate Jeffrey was to be joining their family. He emphasized the word, fortunate, while looking directly at my brother. A not-so-subtle reminder of the financial disparity between the families. And we've already secured Jeffrey a position at my firm's legal department, he announced to murmurs of approval. No more of that public defender nonsense. I frowned, knowing how passionate Jeffrey had been about his pro bono work with disadvantaged clients. It was something he'd spoken about with pride, and now it was dismissed as nonsense, without a word of protest from my brother. The best man gave a charming toast full of college anecdotes and predictions of happiness. Jeffrey's speech thanking the guests was brief but sincere. Throughout it all I kept waiting for him to acknowledge our family. Not just our parents, whom he thanked profusely, but the shared history and bonds that had shaped us both. He never did. As coffee and dessert were served, I thought perhaps the worst was over. Noah was starting to fidget, clearly tired from the long day, and I was contemplating making our exit before the dancing began. That's when Vanessa, slightly flushed from champagne, took the microphone from the DJ for what appeared to be an unplanned speech. I just want to thank everyone who made this perfect day possible, she began, her voice carrying across the now quiet ballroom. My amazing parents who gave me everything a girl could dream of. She blew them a kiss. Jeffrey's parents who raised such a wonderful man. A nod to Diana and Harold. And especially my gorgeous bridesmaids who've been with me through everything. She paused, taking another sip of champagne, and I sensed a shift in her demeanor, a slight edge entering her voice. You know, when I first met Jeffrey, I wondered about his background. He was so accomplished, so sophisticated. I couldn't understand certain elements of his family situation. My stomach tightened as her gaze drifted in my direction. Particularly his sister's circumstances. I mean, here's Jeffrey, this brilliant attorney, and then there's his sister, just a pathetic single mom who couldn't keep a man. Talk about family contrasts. A shocked silence fell over the room. I felt blood drain from my face as every eye turned toward me. Noah looked up, confused by the sudden tension. Then, to my horror, my own mother laughed. A bright, social laugh that cut through the silence like a knife. "Oh, Vanessa," Diana called out. "You're too much, but you're not wrong. Samantha always was our challenging child. She's like a discount model with a scratched label. Almost right, but not quite what you'd want on display." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter spread through the guests, people unsure whether they should be amused or appalled. But following the mother of the groom's lead, Vanessa smirked, emboldened by Diana's approval. "I just believe children deserve a proper family," she continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "Not to be raised by someone who clearly has such poor judgment in both men and life choices." More laughter, louder this time. I sat frozen, humiliation burning through me like acid. My hands shook so badly I had to clench them in my lap. I couldn't look at Noah. Couldn't bear to see his reaction to this public dissection of our family. Jeffrey, to his credit, looked uncomfortable, whispering something to Vanessa that she waved off with another laugh. "Oh, don't worry. Everyone knows it's true. I'm just saying what everyone thinks." I should have gotten up then. Should have taken Noah and walked out with whatever dignity I could salvage. But shock had paralyzed me, pinning me to my chair as tears threatened to spill over. This was my brother's wedding. How had it turned into my public shaming? The DJ, sensing disaster, tried to intervene. "How about we get the first dance started? Could the newlyweds please come to the dance floor?" Vanessa handed over the microphone with a final flourish. "Anyway, we all know who got the good genes in that family." "Sorry, Samantha." As the crowd's attention shifted to the dance preparations, I felt a small hand on my arm. Noah was looking at me with a mixture of confusion and determination. "Mom, can I go to the bathroom?" he asked quietly. "Yes, of course," I replied automatically, barely processing his words through my haze of humiliation. "It's just past the dessert table." He nodded solemnly and slipped away from the table. I sat there trying to compose myself, considering whether to follow him and just keep walking out of the venue altogether. But before I could decide, the DJ announced the first dance, and the lights dimmed as Jeffrey and Vanessa took the floor. I watched through blurring eyes as they began to sway to a romantic ballad. Vanessa was whispering something in Jeffrey's ear, making him smile. My brother, who had sat silently through my public evisceration, now looked completely content in his bubble of newlywed bliss. And then something unexpected happened. As the song reached its chorus, there was movement on the small stage where the DJ was set up. Noah had somehow climbed up beside him and was reaching for the second microphone. The DJ, distracted by managing the music and lights, didn't notice until Noah had already switched it on. "Excuse me." My son's clear voice rang out through the ballroom speakers. "Excuse me, everyone." The music continued, but all heads turned toward the stage. Vanessa and Jeffrey stopped dancing, looking up in confusion. "I know something about the bride," Noah continued, his voice steady despite being the center of attention of hundreds of adults. An absolute hush fell over the room. The DJ, flustered, cut the music mid-song, leaving Noah's voice as the only sound in the vast space. I half rose from my seat, unsure whether to rush to him or let him speak. Something in his determined little face made me pause. 3 weeks ago, Noah said clearly, when Mom took me to the Green Hills Mall to buy Uncle Jeff's wedding present, I saw Aunt Vanessa. She didn't see me because I was in the toy store while Mom was next door buying a picture frame. Oh God, what had he seen? I hadn't let Noah out of my sight at the mall. He must have spotted something through the store window that connected to the main concourse. And Vanessa was with a man who wasn't Uncle Jeffrey, Noah continued innocently. They were next to the fountain, and they were kissing. Not just a quick kiss, but the kind that's in movies where people hold on to each other really tight. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Vanessa's face had gone sheet white. Jeffrey stood motionless beside her, his expression unreadable. The man had dark hair and a little beard, and he was wearing a blue jacket with patches on the elbows. He gave Aunt Vanessa a key and said, "Can't wait for next weekend." And Aunt Vanessa said it would be their special place, just for them. I recognized the description immediately. Marcus. Vanessa's ex-boyfriend from college. She had shown me a photo once during one of our early attempts at sisterly bonding, saying they'd remained good friends after breaking up. I didn't tell anyone, Noah finished, his innocent eyes scanning the crowd. Because grown-ups said it's rude to interrupt. But the bride interrupted my mom, so I thought it was okay now. For a moment, the entire reception hall was suspended in shocked silence. Then several things happened at once. Vanessa let out a shriek of denial. That's a lie! That little brat is making it up! Jeffrey turned to her, his face hardening with suspicion. Marcus? You were with Marcus 3 weeks ago? Vanessa's father stood up, his face purple with rage. Get that child off the stage immediately! This is slander! And my mother, Diana, who had laughed at my humiliation just minutes before, now looked between Vanessa and Noah with dawning horror. As for me, I finally broke free of my paralysis and rushed toward the stage, not to silence Noah, but to protect him from the chaos that was erupting around us. As I reached the stage, Noah looked down at me with earnest eyes. Did I say something wrong, Mom? The rawness of his innocent question pierced through the chaos of the moment. I extended my arms and he climbed down into them, his small body warm against mine as I held him close. You told the truth, honey, I whispered, even as Vanessa's continued denials echoed through the ballroom. That child is disturbed. He needs professional help, she was shouting, her perfect makeup now streaked with tears of rage. Jeffrey, you can't possibly believe this nonsense. But Jeffrey's face told a different story. The initial shock had given way to something harder, more calculating. The expression he wore in the courtroom when examining a hostile witness. 3 weeks ago was the weekend you said you had that spa retreat with your mother, he said quietly, his words somehow carrying despite the growing murmurs from the guests. It was a spa weekend, Vanessa insisted, looking to her mother for backup. Vanessa's mother nodded vigorously. Absolutely. We were at Lowbridge the entire weekend. Jeffrey pulled out his phone, his fingers moving quickly across the screen. Funny because you posted photos from that weekend, tagged at Lowbridge. But when I called to book us a couple's massage last week, they said they were closed for renovations all last month. The color drained from both women's faces. By now, Noah and I had made our way to a quiet corner away from the center of the drama. He leaned against me, watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. Why is Aunt Vanessa so mad that I saw her friend? He asked, genuinely confused. Because that man wasn't just a friend, I tried to explain gently. And she wasn't supposed to be kissing him when she was going to marry Uncle Jeffrey. Noah's brow furrowed as he processed this. So, she was being sneaky, like when Tommy in my class takes extra cookies and lies about it. Something like that, I agreed, but much more serious. Back at the head table, Vanessa's defense was crumbling. Her father had taken over, trying to control the situation with the same authoritative tone he probably used in board meetings. This is ridiculous. We're not going to let a child's imagination ruin this beautiful day. Everyone, please return to your seats. DJ, music, please. But it was too late. The carefully orchestrated wedding reception had descended into clusters of whispering guests, many already gathering their belongings, sensing that the celebration was effectively over. And then, unexpectedly, another voice joined the fray. Connor, Jeffrey's best friend and best man, stood up from his seat at the head table. Jeff, he said, his voice tight with evident discomfort. I need to tell you something. I saw Vanessa with a man matching that description about a month ago coming out of the Parkview apartments on 7th Street. I wasn't sure what to think, and I didn't want to ruin things before the wedding without being certain. The Parkview, Jeffrey repeated, his voice hollow. Isn't that where Marcus lives now? The look of pure hatred Vanessa shot toward Connor would have withered a lesser man. But he stood